Sometimes I hear people say that people like me are what's wrong with professional wrestling. And you'll hear people inside of the professional wrestling business point to people like me and say that I represent what is wrong with the professional wrestling business today. You know what I say to them? Humbug on your ass. If I, in any way, shape, or form, or anybody like me, is what's wrong with the professional wrestling business today, then what does that really say about the professional wrestling business? Let me put it to you this way. In the business world, regardless of your form of business, you have customers that you deal with. Okay, your customers a lot of the time say stupid things. They don't fully get it. They don't understand all of the inner workings. This is not something that's unique to professional wrestling, no matter how much professional wrestlers and people in the business seem to believe it is. I get that you love what you do and you take pride in what you do, and God bless you for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody should take that sense of pride. But that doesn't make you special necessarily. And that doesn't make necessarily what you do any different or any more special or any less special than what anybody else does. Anybody else in the business world that deals with customers, your customers say stupid stuff all the time. They want ridiculous things all the time. They have unrealistic expectations. They have no clue what the hell they're talking about a lot of the times. But only it seems like in professional wrestling do you have people in the wrestling business say that to their paying customers or their regular customers. Like they go out of their way to insult the people, not in a work fashion, but in a full-on shoot fashion. They go out of their way to insult the people that ultimately will help pay their salaries or not pay their salaries. Doesn't that seem like a recipe for disaster from a business standpoint? That's a really good business model. Let me go out there and piss off my customers. Let me go out there and be condescending to my customers. Let me go out there and just be completely rude to my customers and watch my business fail. Is it any wonder why professional wrestling is in the fucking shape it is in today? There are so many reasons for it. And the primary reason is the people in the professional wrestling business have helped ruin the professional wrestling business. And that is an unequivocal fact. Let's look at it this way. Was it the fans that sat there and admitted that professional wrestling was a work? Or was that Vince McMahon in the late 80s when it came to dealing with the New Jersey Athletic Commission and dealing with the ticket tax? I don't think that's the fans' fault. After all those years of people in the business trying to kayfabe shit and trying to protect the business and try to keep up the illusion that this was real, even though everybody for years knew it was a fucking work anyways. They knew it was fake. They knew it was scripted. Get over your fucking selves. But it was still Vince McMahon, the king of the kings in the business, that came out and said, yeah, this is bullshit. This is fake. This is scripted entertainment. This is sports entertainment. This isn't real. Are the fans to blame for that? Are the fans to blame for WCW spending themselves into complete oblivion and spending themselves ultimately out of existence? Or would that have been Eric Bischoff and the upper management at WCW there at Turner that helped spend WCW into oblivion, that when the AOL-Time Warner merger happened, they had no desire to have professional wrestling in the company's portfolio in any way, shape, or form? Is that the fans' fault? Is it the fans' fault that ECW ended up crumbling due to the gross negligence and business mismanagement of one Paul E. Heyman? Is that the fans' fault? Or is that Paul Heyman's fault? What I don't get is when you see people in the wrestling business sit there and say, oh, you've never done a wrist lock, you've never done a headlock, you've never done this, you've never taken bumps, so you don't understand, you have no right to talk about it, you have no clue what you're talking about. Well, let me ask you this, a-holes, all you idiots that ever say that. When you go, let's say, to a steakhouse, and you might not even know how to heat up ramen noodles properly, does that stop you from going and sitting there and eating a steak? And if the steak tastes bad, saying, you know what, this chef doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. This steak is terrible. Do you have to be a 5-star chef in order to know whether or not your fucking steak is any good or not? No, you fucking don't. When you watch a television show, You know when a show is funny. You know when it's not. You know when a show is well written. You know when it's not. Do you have to be somebody that's written television scripts? Do you have to have been an actor, a director, or a producer to know whether a television show is good or not? When it comes to professional sports, do you have to have sat there and been a coach, a player, an executive, a general manager, a media member to know whether or not a team is any good or not, or a player is any good or not? No, you don't. But for some reason, the people in professional wrestling live in this freaking bubble where they think they're so much more special and so much different than anybody else out there. And I don't get it. And then they come on here, which to me kind of like is the ultimate sign of being pathetic, frankly, is they throw out lobs and insults at wrestling fans. You know, sometimes they're funny, and a lot of times, frankly, they are deserved. But again, is that really necessarily a good business model? Like, you know, when you've got a Dolph Ziggler sitting there and using terms like marks, and, you know, people in the business using terms like smarks, and all of this other shit. You know, it's fine if that's what you say behind closed doors, because it's like in any other business, which you are no different or no more special than, people have all types of terms they use for all different types of customers. But that doesn't necessarily mean they go around throwing these labels and these insults and these slurs at these freaking customers. Only people in professional wrestling would be stupid and delusional enough to sit there and do that. Only people in professional wrestling on a consistent basis. Like you've got Dolph Ziggler sitting there tweeting out, ooh, this will get the marks. You know, any shit. He always throws in little jibes about marks. And then he's the one with this hashtag is @HeelZiggler. Who's the fucking mark? You're referring to yourself as @HeelZiggler even when you're a baby. Who's the fucking mark? Excuse the hell out of me. People on the indie scene and in ROH and to a lesser degree TNA and even some in WWE. But let's especially focus on the guys on the indie scene and the guys in ROH. Who's the mark here? And I'm going to borrow this from Jim Cornette because this makes perfect sense. You guys are sitting there now in front of 100, 150, 200 people that may be paid $5 or $10 for a fucking ticket, and you're doing all types of ridiculous spots. You're doing swantons onto the fucking pavement. You're going through flaming tables and barbed wire and hitting each other over the head with glass like you would see in the damn CZW or something like that. Who would be the marks? Is it the guys that are paying money to go watch you? Or is it the people that are in the ring doing these ridiculous spots for no damn money and causing themselves real damage, real pain, and real injuries in a fake sport? Who's the mark? I mean, seriously, who's the fucking mark here? I think if you put up that debate to anybody, everybody would sit there and say, well, that guy's the fucking mark. He's such a mark for himself, he's going to do all this stupid shit for no fucking reason and expect everybody to kiss his ass for it. You know, when you're throwing out labels like marks and smarks, and a lot of these guys have never drawn any fucking money, I say to somebody like a Dolph Ziggler, you're going to sit there and always use a label like mark. How about you get yourself all the way fucking over consistently and you stop being such a pain in the ass, it seems like, to people and to people backstage in particular, and maybe you'd actually be a main eventer instead of having your fans who actually like you and respect you tremendously because they think you're a gifted performer get pissed off because you keep getting pushed down and you keep getting held down because of stupid shit that you do. Instead of wasting your energy and your time insulting people, how about you get better at your fucking craft? How about you figure out a way to not be such a snarky little ass? And how about you sit there and get yourself over enough to where they have no choice but to put you in the main event spot? You know, when people inside of the wrestling business say the people outside of the wrestling business don't get it, what's not to get? Look at the WWE. Their audience has dropped more than 50% over the past decade. I understand that in business, you know, when you're in it, you're taught and programmed in any business. And again, wrestling is no different and no more special than anything else. You were taught to put the best possible spin on a bad situation that you can, to always look at it glass half full versus glass half empty. However, anywhere, and I mean anywhere in any form of business, if you have seen more than a 50% decrease in your customer base in the past decade plus, that's not good. That's a problem. The least of your problems are what your customers are doing and what your customers are saying. Maybe, just maybe, and this is just a crazy idea, I understand this, but maybe it's the people running the business the people executing on the business plan, the people coming up with the business plan, the people in charge of the day-to-day operations and putting together of the company and executing, like I said, on those strategies. Maybe it's those people that are really to blame. I mean, if you really think about it, I see people sometimes talk about how the internet killed professional wrestling. If the internet killed professional wrestling, then how healthy was professional wrestling really to begin with? The internet's been around for, what, 15, 20 years now. You know, the internet was around in the late 90s, early 2000s when wrestling was doing incredibly well. How did the internet kill professional wrestling? I know what some of you will put down with your flaming keyboard fingers of fire down there, and some of what you say does make sense, but ultimately, how did the internet kill professional wrestling? How did people like me kill professional wrestling? Maybe it's the people like the Vince Russos that helped kill professional wrestling. Maybe it's the people like Vince McMahon that helped kill professional wrestling. Maybe it's the people like Eric Bischoff that helped kill professional wrestling. Maybe it's the people that go out there on the indie scene and don't implement any psychology into their freaking matches at all and do all types of ridiculous high-flying monkey spots and karate kicks in front of nobody for no damn money, and they think they're the greatest thing since sliced fucking bread. Maybe those are the people that have helped kill professional wrestling. Maybe it's the people like Stephanie McMahon who instituted this creative philosophy for several years now in the WWE of having Hollywood writers and soap opera writers write your wrestling television. So people like me wouldn't be qualified to write your wrestling television even if we have 15, 20, 25, 30 years of experience in terms of watching professional wrestling and understanding what we like and what we don't like. So we'd rather get somebody like an Ed Ferrara who wrote for what, Duckman for a fucking season or whatever the hell it was. We'd rather get comedians like Patrice O'Neal. We'd rather get freaking soap opera writers because they're so much more qualified than somebody like me to write professional wrestling. And then we sit there and we try to put this positive spin on this shit like it's the most awesome thing. We're growing all the time and our business is becoming even more international and we're finding all these new streams of revenue. Well, maybe, and this is just another crazy idea, but maybe for the people in the business, and especially in the WWE in this case, maybe you wouldn't have to find so many additional streams of revenue if you were doing a better job with your nuts and bolts, your core basic components of your company. Did you ever think about that? Maybe that's why you're having to sit there and make all these cheap, lousy, pathetic money grabs, because you're not doing a better job with your nuts and bolts, your day-to-day operations. You look at people at TNA, they're going to talk shit about people like me. You can't even draw a few thousand people to your biggest show of the year, Bound for Glory. You consistently struggle to put 400 or 500 people in a building for any of your live events, whenever the hell you do run live events. Is it my fault that TNA once gave $400-something thousand to Johnny Fairplay? Is it my fault that they brought in somebody like fucking JWoww? Is it my fault that they decided that King Mo was somebody they just had to have? That Rampage Jackson was somebody that they just had to fucking have? Is that my fault? No, it's the people in the wrestling business that have killed the wrestling business, that have ruined the professional wrestling business, that have put the frickin' business in the position and situation that it is today. This cannot be denied. There's like no argument here. It frustrates me to no end when I see wrestlers and I see people in the business go out of their way to do whatever they can to demean their fans, their paying customers, or their customers that watch, whose rating point in part is used to help determine how much you get from advertising, whatever. The people that go online and buy your merchandise, they go out of their way to insult those people, to demean those people. Maybe, and again, this is just me being crazy here and being way out in deep roving left field, but maybe if you focused a little less time on blaming everybody else and you spend a little more time looking in the mirror and pointing the finger at yourselves, maybe professional wrestling wouldn't be in the damn shape it's in. Is it the fault of the professional wrestling fan that people in the media always talk down on professional wrestling and it's viewed as a second-class form of entertainment? Or would that be the pussies in the professional wrestling business that for so many years allowed this shit to happen to begin with? Listen here, dumb dicks, and I mean this, all you dumb dicks that have ever sat there and been scared to stand up for professional wrestling, that have seemed to be ashamed or embarrassed of being in professional wrestling even though you made your living at it, who are afraid to take the media to task for this shit, it's not that hard to do. It really isn't. You sit there and say, what is so different about our form of entertainment than anything else, like a Sons of Anarchy, a Breaking Bad, a this and that. But somehow, all of you in the professional wrestling business have allowed this incredibly negative stigma to be attached to professional wrestling for so many damn years. I didn't do that. You did. People like me didn't do that. People like you did that. So I don't know what the hell type of high horse you get off on, trying to sit there and blame people like me for creating your problems. I don't fucking get it. I really don't. And then to sit there and you got the people now, and it frustrates me to no end, to all hell, to see people involved in professional wrestling still that sit there and always toe that company line and talk about, well, this is great and that is great. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. Always find that way to put that little whitewashed corporate spin on shit. Let me put it to you this way. Again, I will emphasize, if your ratings have dropped more than 50% in the past decade plus, and you consistently struggle to sell out your live event venues, and your pay-per-view buy rates have either stagnated and or decreased, things are not all peachy keen, and you fucking know it. How about somebody in professional wrestling having the balls to stand up, somebody with some real sway, with some real influence, standing up and saying, no, you know what? We've done better. I expect better. We should demand better. We should stop blaming everybody else and blame our fucking selves, and let's make this better. Let's catch up with the fucking times and not be behind the damn times. What is the identity of WWE today? What is the identity of TNA today? Who gives a shit about ROH, but what the fuck is their identity? You got ROH trying to sit there and be some damn jiu-jitsu karate company. You're a professional wrestling company, you dipshits. And how's your business doing? TNA. After all these years, you were originally designed to go after the WCW fan. 11 and a half years later, you've still failed to reel in all those old WCW fans. What's your identity? What the hell are you doing? And WWE. After all these years of being around, you've had some great times, you've had some less than great times for different reasons. Now it's the end of 2013. What the hell is your identity? What does your future look like 3 years, 5 years from now? Are you going to be sitting there and trying to come up still with ways to implement the WWE network? You've only been working on it for a couple of years now, and it sounds like you still don't know what the fuck you're doing. Is that the fans' fault? Is it the fans' fault that you consistently fail to develop real deal new top stars? You look at a guy like a CM Punk and a Daniel Bryan, who you don't even try to elevate all the way to the top. They get just close to enough to break through that glass ceiling, then you yank the rug out from under them any fucking ways. But I suppose that's the fans' fault too. You get the guys like the Rybacks and then this guy and then that guy and the Wade Barretts and the so on and so forth. There's so many other fucking guys that you consistently fail to make new stars to the point where you have to sit there and put John Cena versus Randy Orton on the top of your card at TLC in a desperate attempt to try and sell some pay-per-views this Sunday. But I suppose that's the fans' fault too, right? I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of fans being intimidated by people in professional wrestling. Hey, you know what? If they're wrong, they're wrong. Stop kissing their ass hoping that they'll retweet you. Stop kissing their ass hoping they'll watch your YouTube videos. Stop kissing their ass hoping either they'll send you a free autograph or a picture or give you a shout out or any of that other shit. If they say something right, if they say something that makes sense, then by God, support it. You know, somebody like a Lance Storm, I see a lot of stuff that he says makes sense. But there are also times where he takes shit to task. I respect that. I respect a man like that that sits there and says when something's good and tells you why he feels it's good. And when he sees something bad, he tells you why it's bad. And he lets you know why it's bad. That's something I can respect. Not a lot of these other punk pussies that sit there and try and figure out every way possible to put any positive spin on what they do. Newsflash, assholes, nothing is perfect, and that especially includes professional wrestling here at the end of 2013. It's time for fans like me to sit there and say, you know what? Enough is enough. We're tired of getting punked out. We're tired of getting insulted. Maybe it's the people in the business that deserve to be insulted the most. They've insulted our intelligence for so many years. Maybe it's time we start insulting them. They've sat there and lied to us for so many years and tried to pull the wool over our eyes for so many years. Maybe it's time we say enough is enough. It's time to stop kissing these guys' asses. They're nothing special. They're human beings. Nothing more, nothing less. And with the shape of the business today, they sure as hell don't deserve to have their ass kissed like they think they do. Period. And if people in the professional wrestling business have a problem with anything that I've said or anything I will continue to say on this topic in the future, Well, you can kiss right the hell off. I don't care. Humbug on your ass. Because people like you in the professional wrestling business have been what has helped ruin professional wrestling, period.